So you lead large, multi-layered teams on billion-dollar programs. How do you structure and align people, capabilities, and goals to deliver results effectively across all these different layers and across all of these leadership layers too?
Clarity is key. You have to really define what's needed and then align the people and their skills, but also understand their potential. People want to be included, but they also want to grow. They don't want to be what they are today, tomorrow. So understanding that and being able to clearly define those roles. And it starts with, if I look at a program level, an organization chart, being able to.
What's harder than delivering $1 billion infrastructure program? Well, how about leading a multi-layered team to do it, all while client expectations are evolving and keeping every moving part aligned? In today's episode, we're joined by Omo Esemuede, professional engineer, PMP, who is the Senior Vice President of Aviation for Texas and Louisiana at WSP. Omo will share insights on leading across multifaceted teams to deliver successful outcomes for clients and organizations. We're going to be talking about how to structure and guide complex teams, how to align internal capabilities with client goals, and how global project experience can elevate leadership at every level. If you're leading across disciplines or preparing to scale your impact in high-stakes environments, this episode will offer powerful strategies for bringing clarity, structure, and alignment to your team. But before we jump in, I wanted to tell you about our AEC PM Connect event. This is where emerging and experienced leaders are coming together to learn about real-world strategies to drive performance, empower teams, and lead with purpose. Visit aecpremiumconnect.com to register today. We currently have events coming up in Kansas City and New Jersey with more on the way. I'm your host, Rebecca Swaby, and this is the AEC Leadership Podcast, previously the Engineering Career Coach Podcast. With that, let's jump right in. Welcome to our show, Omo. Can you share a little bit about your background and the path that led you to your current leadership role at WSP?
Yes, thank you for having me. One of the things that set my path forward is coming from a very well-tailored family that looked towards academic as well as professional excellence. Father was a tenured professor, mother an educator, and I have siblings that are in the medical field as well as in law as well. So, and being the youngest of four, I had a lot to aspire to. So my mantra was always to keep moving forward, never have a ceiling above you that you would reach at some point. So that's kind of how I've been able to move forward from graduating from HBC, University of District of Columbia. I knew that I wanted to be a leader, and the first item that I saw in that is project management. But coming out of school, they're not going to make this young kid a project manager or a leader. So I started looking at ways to be able to pivot and be able to position myself to those leadership roles. One, through, of course, being open to the type of work that I invested myself in, and the other piece, pursuing additional degrees and classes in leadership as well as business, dealing with finance and accounting, because I had mentors early on in my career where they're saying, make sure you take Accounting 101. It's gonna help you later on. And then the same thing with my master's degree. I had a leader tell me that it may not help you right now, 2-3 years into your career, but later on it's going to help you. So that was very key, and it actually opened a lot of doors for me as I moved through my career. Being placed in an early management acceleration program at one of my firms opened up an opportunity overseas for me to be able to expand beyond the technical engineering realm and enter aviation, to be able to manage and be part of world-renowned airports overseas, and being able to be there and get to a level where I was leading projects and resources regionally, set me up to come back to the U.S. To enter the roles and the role that I'm in currently, leading one of the aviation regions for my current company. So all of this goes back to the whole mantra of always moving forward and being able to be technically excellent, but also knowing that there's more to come as I move forward in my career.
That's great. And it sounds like you started in the aviation direction internationally. Was it difficult to transition back into the US?
One one might think so, but one thing that I found is there are quite a few people that I met overseas that are either clients or consultants over here in the US. Because overseas we had people from the UK, Australia, um, Asia, Africa, and definitely the US. So a number of those people, at least from the US, returned to the US and took on leadership roles as well. So there's a little fraternity or sorority of people that I know from those
Oh,
days as well. So it's
interesting. It
actually
sounds like it's a small world to some extent.
it is, and it gets smaller and smaller as you as you move up.
Well, it sounds like you're obviously a very hard worker, very focused on building your technical competency. You always wanted to keep moving, as you said. It also sounds like you had some great mentors and some great leaders that supported you in that when you voiced your ambitions. Um, do I have that right? Like you said things out loud, and it sounds like doors were opened for you along the way.
Yes, and it's by example, being able to show that you're investing in yourself and people see that. And
Hmm.
I would like to say quote unquote mentors, because you can have multiple mentors without them essentially being called mentors. So I've always been taught to always listen whether you agree with what somebody's saying or not. You have to listen. That's how you get wiser, and that's how you get more knowledgeable. And I did have sponsors who were able to support me in getting me to where I am right now. But that first started with the initial investment in myself at the end
Hmm.
of the day.
Absolutely. So you lead large, multi-layered teams on billion-dollar programs. How do you structure and align people, capabilities, and goals to deliver results effectively across all these different layers and across all of these leadership layers too?
So clarity is key. You have to really define what's needed and then align the people and their skills, but also understand their potential as well. So, in understanding their potential, that means where they want to go with their career. People want to be included, but they also want to grow. They don't want to be what they are today, tomorrow. So, understanding that and being able to clearly define those roles. And it starts with, if I look at a program level, an organization chart, being able to understand with your clients what their need is and tailor that organizational chart to those needs. And it's just empty boxes with just roles and no names. And then taking that and put in names to it. You'll use your team and through collaboration to be able to fill that chart such that it's what the program needs and what the client needs to be able to deliver those multi-billion-dollar programs. And in that, I've had projects where a person may start out as an inspector, but by the end of the project, 5, 6, 7 years later, they're a senior inspector or an assistant construction manager. So to be able to give that growth, the key thing there is being able to work internally within your organization to be able to implement that growth, but also work with your clients to be able to support that growth in those positions. And the result is that you're able to have a continuity of resources and knowledge throughout the actual program. And that's what makes those multi-billion-dollar programs successful.
Hmm. Okay, so you've touched on this a little bit, but I'd love to know more. When you're working with diverse teams, how do you assess individuals and collective strengths to best position people, especially under pressure, timelines, the project has to keep moving?
The key thing is, even though I feel I can do everything by myself, is you can't lead alone. Where I'm at right now in my career and my company, we're collaborators. So there are other leaders that we're able to work with to be able to support us and be able to understand the team's strengths in their respective discipline or in their respective area, such that we're able to put the best team forward. And it's about trust. You really find out how much you trust your team when you're under pressure, when you have tight deadlines. And all of that is set up at the beginning, having those conversations, having that open communication such that it goes throughout the whole project cycle. And that trust is fostered and built up over time throughout the whole program. And then being able to adapt real time to the challenges of a program. And you'll be able to assess that early on and throughout the program to be agile in your program as your staff move to different positions or remain in certain positions. You'll be able to understand their bandwidth, what they can handle and what they can't handle. And that takes a village, that takes a team to be able to do that. Projects that fail are projects that everything is on one person's shoulder. So it's, as a leader, you have to utilize your team, you have to inspire your team. And that's when you're able to move forward through pressure as well as tight deadlines.
Hmm. Do you have any examples of projects that you can share with us, even just at a high level, where something came up and you had to adapt, team need to shift, and how you thought about it?
Yes, I've actually had a few projects, but I'll utilize one when I was overseas. There was a project where we had tight deadlines as well as enormous pressure to be able to deliver. Um, it was a resource constraint because you had a scheduled deadline that was sooner than later, but we didn't necessarily have all the resources to be able to support it. So we had to increase those resources quickly to be able to provide 24/7 inspection services, night and day, basically. So I was able to mobilize our internal team and work with the client to be able to bring in more resources, vet those resources, of course, with the client as well as with our team to make sure that they fit within the core of our team, such that those staff would be able to support the contractor to be able to finish their work product. We're able to inspect it, whether it's 10 p.m. at night or on a Saturday morning. We had staff there to be able to do it so that we can turn over those areas. And a lot of those staff, they were temporary staff. They call them TDY staff that we brought from all over the world. And a lot of those staff, or at least half of those staff, ended up staying on for another 1 to 2 years because they graduated from those inspector positions to become assistant CMs or even PMs on other programs. So that agility, as well as being able to work with the team, allowed us to be able to meet those deadlines working with the client on that end.
Hmm. And you spoke about how important it is to keep people knowledge on the project. So that must be not only a great opportunity for the staff to move up and into other roles, but for the project to ultimately be as successful as possible.
Yes, yes.
You spoke earlier about the importance of clarity in communication. I'd love to hear what's your process for uncovering and clarifying client expectations when you navigate these complex and evolving challenges.
So it's always about listening. At the end of the day, you go in ears open. If possible, bring one or two other people with you so that while you're talking, someone else is writing. While someone else is talking, you're writing. And it's not necessarily having the solution right then, but giving the client the assurances that you're looking into the solution and you're listening to them and being able to pull in that information, absorb that information, and go back to your team and be able to assess it. And before you do that, of course, you'll inform the client, we've heard you. We're going to go back. We're going to look for solutions for you, and then we're going to come back to you to make sure what we're looking at aligns with the direction that you want to go. And that's really the process, and it starts with communication and having that open line of communication, that transparency, and that builds the trust. that you're going to have with the client, and the client is going to have with you.
Great. And you've had so much experience in the US as well as international around the world, particularly on major airports in the Middle East and the US. So, how has this all influenced your leadership style and strategic thinking?
It has influenced me enormously because the purpose of the projects overseas or at any project is always different. So if you have the ability to be on multiple projects or a higher amount of projects, it always adds to your knowledge and even your expectations and being able to share those experiences with different clients. I had clients in overseas where their purpose was to be able to show a picture of their country. That was their purpose, and the purse didn't matter how much it cost. They just wanted to make sure that when people visit their airport, this is how their country is viewed. Whereas in the U.S. and or in certain airports in the U.S., it's usually about, and it's always about passenger experience, but it's about, okay, passenger experience. Am I able to move these people through my airport efficiently? And also, to a certain extent, put in that sense of place as well in these airports. So being able to mash those two together, thinking about budget constraints, of course, I'm able to provide ideas of what I saw years ago in certain airports with other airports that are similar or alike, and be able to meet in the middle to be able to say, hey, maybe you don't need a, a hotel in your airport. And, or in this instance, maybe a hotel would be good, and mainly for airports that have long layovers, per se, like when you have a lot of international flights, per se, or maybe you don't need a spa in your airport, but or maybe you do essentially.
Sounds like a lot of it is teasing out the hierarchy of importance and goals of various features of the project.
Exactly, exactly.
Do you find that the client usually comes with a lot of clarity around that, or that's a big part of your job and your team's job when you get started is to help them figure out what they actually want?
Yes, it's some clients you're not going to go to and tell them, "Hey, let's build this Olympic-sized pool in your airport," because they also have to look at the demographics, the community, and the community that they're serving, as well as the purpose for that expansion, the purpose for that upgrade. So typically myself and our team would do the research before we would approach the client. So that when we go to the client, we have a foundation of knowledge, but we go to them to listen to what their vision is. And then we take our experience and our research to be able to say, okay, this is what we've seen elsewhere, or this is what we've seen worked at other places. What are your thoughts about this? And be able to collectively work their vision into how we would be able to develop their program and deliver their program.
So a lot of balance. And speaking of balance, how do you think about balancing technical excellence within the broader organizational goals? Again, especially around delivering complex infrastructure projects like airports.
So technical excellence goes with business excellence. If you're not able to deliver the client satisfaction, you'll probably be there for a while and start spending resources on your own dime until the client is satisfied. So I put those together because excellence means you're meeting the scope, you're meeting the budget, you're meeting the schedule. So number one. And if you're able to do those things, you're able to, and the client is satisfied, you're able to get more work later on, which adds to the company's profitability as well. So that's always number one for us. Coming out, I said academic excellence and professional excellence in my family, and that's what's driven me. In school, we want to be perfect, 100%, and it follows through in your career. But what is 100% perfect? 100% perfect is what the client wants, and you take the time to be able to understand what is that going to take, what resources are going to be required, and align that with the cost, and be realistic and be transparent with your client to be able to understand what it is, what it's going to take to be able to get there, and then move from there, whether you need to shave down the scope or maybe even add to the scope. And then you're able to move forward from there because you're transparent and everyone knows what direction you're going in based on the established parameters.
So creating a strong definition of what 100% perfect is, at least understanding it, knowing that it's not simply just the technical piece, it's a balance of multiple levers, including the economics and other factors.
Exactly.
Yeah, great. So what's one final piece of advice that you can share with other leaders in the AEC space, those that are looking to strengthen their ability to lead, especially multifaceted teams?
Well, I'd say make sure your team is a mirror of the community you serve, the client that you serve. Once you're able to do that, you've overcome many challenges because a lot of challenges on programs is very people centric. So in doing that, you're able to get past that cold opening and where you have a leadership team and a team that understands the environment that you're working in and the intricacies of working in that environment. The other piece is being emphatic. This is probably the key thing for me. Let people know that you care about them. You care about their well being. You care about their success. And that goes back to be able to inspire people to be able to work with you as opposed to work for you. And that builds trust. And that's where you get the impact that you need to be able to deliver programs. I guess if you look at a final thought, I'd probably say leadership isn't just about directing outcomes. It's about unlocking potential in people, in programs, and in purpose.
Such important advice. Thank you so much for that. And thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
Please remember you can find all of the show notes from today's episode at aecleadershippodcast.com. There you'll find a summary of the key points that we talked about in today's episode, as well as all other links to resources, books, or websites that we mentioned.